Hello, welcome to the Yep Yeah Yes podcast with Marissa and Tamika. Today we're discussing IVF, something very personal to the both of us. Next week is actually National Infertility Awareness Week, and what better way to shed light and shine light on this topic than to share our experiences. But first, how are you, Marissa?
I'm very, very good.
Yeah?
How's your cough?
My cough is, it's still there, but it's a lot better. I do believe that I'm allergic to you. And because I seem like I don't really cough that much until I come into your home. But, as long as the three people out there are not offended, we're good. Anyway, so IVF Awareness Week actually starts next week. It's April 23rd through the 29th. And I know it's something that I shouldn't say IVF Awareness Week. It's actually Infertility Awareness Week.
Yes.
Which is very different than IVF Awareness Week.
Correct.
But we both felt that it was something that we both had in common in a lot of ways, and kind of bring it up and talk about it.
Did you know 1 in 6 people are diagnosed with a form of infertility?
Really?
Yes.
That's not shocking. The shocking thing is that a lot of people don't feel comfortable enough speaking about it.
Well, you already know I am.
Unfortunately.
I know it bothers you a lot, but I just feel like. If you heard my story, you'd understand why. So whenever the topic of infertility or fertility or IVF or any sort of help like that, I'm constantly screaming to the world, my story, my process, and what I went through. But I know you're not always feeling when I do that.
No, because not everybody wants to hear your story.
Well, here's the thing.
And not everybody
ask for all that.
Not everybody. People may have experienced, like me, I've experienced infertility issues and it didn't result in kids.
Right.
So constantly hearing about it, not that you're constantly saying it to me, but when we're out and you bring up your story, it's like, not that you're like, oh, I'm so lucky it worked for me, but that's how it sounds to somebody who has not had the rainbow at the end of that needle,
right.
So to say.
It's funny that you bring that up because I do that for 2 reasons. One, when I started this process, I was what you would consider very young. I was in my 20s when I started this whole infertility journey. So
what made you before you get into?
So I got married at 25, which is very young, and what one
you felt it was old.
Stupid, right? What a dumb thing to think. But anyway, because everybody in my family was getting married at like 23, 22, idiots. Anyway. So, those are apparently your prime fertile years, a bulk of it. And we never used, we didn't do family planning. It was just one of those we'll see what happens. And then, the years went by and it was like, that's curious, nothing's happening. So then, what really fast forwarded to me, because I was definitely in the process of it before, but what fast forwarded for me was, my mom did get sick and I wanted her to be around to meet my baby, but it didn't happen. But anyway, while I started this journey and I started to talk about it with other people, I had a lot of family members give me a stigma, and I just could not allow anyone to make me feel bad about what I was going through.
What was the stigma that they gave you?
Well, I had like a set of questions that people ask. Well, who's not working? You or him? Who's damaged? Neither of us.
Damaged. I hate that word.
Damaged. Oh yes. But you're so young. Have you tried? Don't try and it'll happen. Okay. All right. Oh, but you're so young. I get that. Okay. And then it's like, well, do you really want kids? No. I'm just here because it's a drive-through. And then, there's cost involved and a lot of things where they questioned, well, are you going to tell your kids? You don't have to tell anybody. You could tell them that twins weren't in your husband's family. He has a big family. They won't know. And I wasn't ashamed what I was doing. I didn't feel like there was anything wrong with me or my husband. I didn't feel like there was anything wrong with the process. So I would not allow anyone else. But not only that, I was very secure in what I was doing. I felt strong in my commitment and convictions, but I also wanted everyone else, because I heard the sad stories when I was, I did a lot of this process, by myself. I needed to be at those doctor's appointments by myself, and I could hear what other people were saying to each other, and I refused. It was my commitment. I refused to allow other people to feel bad about what they were going through. And it brought up. I had a visceral reaction earlier when I was gathering my thoughts about this topic. I was in I was getting ready to do one of my procedures, and I was listening. I was in the waiting room, and you come in, you sign in, you do blood work, and you come back and wait. You come back out into the waiting room and you wait for whatever it is that you're doing. Well, there was a husband, wife, and a mother-in-law in the waiting room, and I had seen them a bunch of times because it becomes like a part-time job with depending on where you are in the process. So the wife and daughter-in-law, right? The wife goes back to get her blood work, but her husband and her mother-in-law didn't go with her. And the mother-in-law turns to her son and goes, I can't believe we have to go through all this for me to have a grandbaby. She better be grateful at the end of all of this, because half of this is coming out of my pocket, and she better realize what I'm doing for her.
Wait, the grandmother said that?
Yes, the mother-in-law / grandmother said
that. Oh, the mother-in-law said that to
her son.
I'm like, why would a mother? Okay.
While his wife went back to get her blood work and come back, and it's funny because I had seen them a bunch of times. I never spoke to them, just because everybody kind of is in that waiting room at different processes, and you kind of don't really talk to each other. You just sit there in silence and hope.
It's very awkward.
Yeah.
I've been in a lot of medical waiting rooms, and that's the worst one I've ever been in.
Yeah, for a lot of reasons. Some people are waiting because they have to, essentially get cleaned out because something didn't, produce viability, or they're hoping, or it's just
whatever the case may be.
Exactly, the waiting room, it's very quiet and somber. But when she said that, I kind of looked up, and the daughter-in-law came back, and they just kept talking like nothing, like that conversation, that little piece of verbiage never happened. And I just thought to myself, like, this is why I'm alone. I can't hear that. Like, you have to be grateful for what I'm going through. It's a tough road. No matter what, it's a tough road.
Yeah, I mean, I just thinking of you mentioning that waiting room just made me think. There's been so many times where I'm sitting in there, and it's just there's women like I was single when I started going through it, and the amount of women that are there by themselves.
Yeah.
But they're like with somebody because you see the wedding ring or whatever, and then when you see a guy come in there, you're like, wow, that man stepped up. Like,
he's so amazing.
He's great. Even when he's not giving a sample, he just he's there to support. You're like, where they find him at? But otherwise speaking, it's usually a lot of women just by themselves in there.
Yeah.
And it's awkward silence. Not that everybody in waiting rooms and offices talk to each other, but there's a different vibe.
It's different hum. Yeah,
It's very noticeable.
Yeah.
And if you've ever been in one, you would know exactly what we're speaking about.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
And then the education class that you have, because there's so many options when you're going through this process.
Right. And
then once you pick an option, there's so many options within that option. So it's insane. Like, the amount of information is very overwhelming. But it's so funny because it's just like it's literally just like high school, because you have, like, when you're going through your class, there's some, depending on what option you're taking, there's some people that have a lot of information and ask questions that you didn't even know existed. They use terms that you had no clue about, and then you're kind of like, oh my god. And then you see like the perplexing, you look around the classroom, so to speak, and you're like, okay, she's confused too, so I'm not the only one. And it's a lot. Insane. Yeah, it's insane. But the options.
So after you went in and you got diagnosed with, it's not working for us at this moment.
Right.
The doctor tells you, okay, so this is the
first step,
the roadmap I'm going to put you on.
Right.
And this is the first bus stop.
Right.
Talk about that. Talk about, like, that first initial where you have your prescriptions, and you're home. You have an idea of what
it is,
what the plan is.
Okay, so for me, I will say for me, once that first initial like GYN appointment where you're like, all right, where you have to kind of get a checkup anyway before you go to the fertility specialist. So at that moment, I was like, all right, so I said to myself, how far am I willing to take this? And I said to myself, okay, so, all right, so I did her first, and then from there I went to the fertility specialist, and then, okay, right, so that appointment.
But yeah.
Right, so I'm at that appointment, so this is the okay, these are your levels, this doesn't look like it's going to happen, so this is the roadmap, this is what we're going to do. And I just completely said, all right, emotions, we're going to turn that off. This is a part-time job, let's turn that gear on. And I told myself I had to take my feelings completely out of it and understand kind of what I was willing to do, because there's a lot of procedures and a lot of medication that you have to take, and it really does a number on your body. So you have to really take a moment to listen to your body.
You should say it does a moment on your body.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
No, because everybody's different.
Yeah, everybody's different. Yeah, some people, they don't feel dramatic effects.
They have no, it's like you talk to them and it's like, oh, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And so for me, I just knew for me that it was going to be a part-time job.
Why did you think that?
So
what about it made you think that from step one?
Because I was infertility, I don't know if it's genetics, but runs in my family on both sides, my mom and my dad's. My dad has 4 sisters. 2 of them had children. One had both with trouble. And the other ones just was never happening. And then on my mom's side, there was a lot of infertility as well. And I on my mom's side, I have family members that went through the process, but this was obviously in the early 80s, 90s, 70s, 50s, whatever it is. So, I had a little bit more medicine than they did, but I know I was a little bit more privy to the process than somebody else who didn't have that in their family.
Right.
So I understood that this was going to be a process.
So, but talk about, if you want to, I mean, what I'm trying to get at is like the steps. Now you have a roadmap. You come home, you have your...
Yeah, so first one was, okay. And here's the thing that was like the most daunting for me. I have this incredible fear of pills. If I take a pill, I will choke and die. There's no questions about it. You can't say, oh, it's a small pill, it's no big deal. You could just take it, just do it. I will choke and die. Shut up, I can't do that. So my first question was, how many pills do I have to take? Are they big? Are they small? Can they be chewed?
Right.
Is there liquid form? All that stuff. So that was, that's so funny. And then it's like, it's not funny. This is a serious
this
thing.
is not the time to be joking. There's no jokes allowed.
There's no jokes right now, mofo.
There should be no jokes in the medical office anyway.
What's easy for you is not for me. So anyway, so that was, and then it was like, well, what's the medication that goes with it, and what's the process for each thing? So for me, it was, all right, the first step was, let's start you on Clomid to get the ovulation, boosted, because so there's levels that like when you're dormant, you're at 90, and then when you spike at 300, that's your ovulation, that's the peak point. For me, my dormant was 30, and with medication, my peak was 90. But he said, okay, we tried intrauterine inseminations. I did 6 of those. And that's with, it's intrauterine inseminations, IUI. So that whole process with the medication with that and the Clomid and progesterone, I started progesterone early. So that was the process to start those. And that you did once a month or twice a month, depending on how your cycle was going. So we did 6 rounds of those, and then it was like, all right, how many of those are you willing to try until you say, okay, this isn't working, let's go to the next step. So that was the question. It was one of those, like, every time we tried it, it was, do you want to try one more time? Yes or no? All right, let's try it one more time. Finally, at the 6th round, I said, my doctor and I decided that wasn't, obviously that option is not working out. So we tried, that's when I started my road to in vitro fertilization.
That's a lot. And it is a lot. Don't try to belittle it. It is a lot.
It's
a lot. And at this point, you still don't have a child. So you think about if that's 6, that's not like all in 1 month. That's over a course of...
that's if you're ovulating.
Right.
Because remember, you can only do that if you're ovulating. And there were times that I didn't.
Right. So it's like, this is a long process.
Yeah.
And it's weird because my situation is a little bit different. I was engaged and I went to the gynecologist. And I had a male gynecologist. And my philosophy behind that was, with the male gynecologist, a nurse has to be in there. So it's 2 people, it's the buddy system, it's checks and balances.
Yeah.
And I ended up, leaving him because he every time I went there, he was like, how you're not pregnant, you don't have a baby, what's going on here? Are you checking? And I'm like, you're the gynecologist. Like, you checking? What are you seeing down there? Like, really? What are you talking about?
What am I thought this is your job.
I was like, I'm engaged. Yes, we get down. Shoot, what are you talking about?
Goodness.
I mean,
Yeah, but what you know now, had you known it then, would your conversation would have been different?
Yes, if he would have told me, like, if he would have been all the way real with it, like, look, I don't even, like, for real, I'm gonna give what do you call it? What is the word for it?
Thank God.
No.
Footnote.
I don't blocked out most of the stuff that happened back then. So, like, you're like, I had 6 IUIs. I'm like, I don't even remember how many I had. I really don't. I don't remember how old I was. Like, I have to go through my medical records and look. But I was in my 30s. But anyway, so me and my ex, we didn't have children. And then we ended up breaking up. I ended up getting a new gynecologist, not because I didn't like him, but I moved. And so I got one, and I wanted to get a female that was close to my age, somebody that I could stay with and we'll age together. Right. That was my philosophy about it. So I got her, and I told her, like, look, I've been having hot flashes. I'm just not feeling myself anymore. I was like, I don't know if it's because of the breakup. I really don't know. So she did a blood test. And prior to that, one of the worst websites ever invented by anybody is WebMD. So I'm self-diagnosing. I'm like, oh my God, I got this, I got that. So I went in there, I was like, I think I'm menopausal. And she's like, no, you're too young. I was like...
That's what, walking into a fertility clinic in your mid to late 20s, and they're like, "Why are you here?"
Right, like you're a doctor. You've seen it. You should have seen it all. You know what I mean? So she's like, "But I'll do the blood test." She calls me later that day. I was like, "Oh my gosh, she calling me?" No. I see a number that I don't recognize. The answer, and she's like, "Hi, Tamika. This is Dr. So and So." I was like, "Oh my God, oh my God, I'm dying." She's like, no. I was like, what is it? You don't want to get I'm chilling. It's
when your doctor doesn't call you, that's good.
Right. It's like 7 something at night. I'm watching Friends, reruns. Like, I'm chilling. I'm on the couch chilling, getting ready for the next day at work. Mm-hmm. And here come my doctor with the, hey, Tamika. I'm like, what? So then she tells me I'm perimenopausal. Oh. And I was like, oh, shit. And I started crying. I went in my pity moment. I probably called my mom, probably called you. I don't even remember. I just remember the phone call. And I remember going in the bathroom, sitting on the toilet and just bawling my eyes out. Because now I'm single and I'm older. And the things that kept going through my head was like my dad. Like, I want a grandchild. And it's like, really? How about you be a fucking father first? But I digress. Sorry,
That's
Ma.
for another
Sorry, Ma. I know you don't like the F word, but I'm, Anyway, so...
I think she would have minded on this one,
yeah, though. Right? But, anyway, so... She sent me to a reproductive endocrinologist and spoke to that person, that doctor. And the first visit, he told me that I was damaged.
He used the word damaged.
And to me, yeah, he used the word damaged. And... It still hurts a lot because I've always felt damage because I've had Larson syndrome in my bones and things like that. And so for him to call me damaged kind of like reinforced that. And now not damaged because of my bones, but because of my reproductive makeup or whatever you want to call it. He's just like, yeah, it's not happening. by yourself. We can try to see what we can do. He scheduled some IUIs. I did a bunch of them over the course of a year. And, it was rough. From those moments where you're taking the pills and you're going in for blood work. It was a lot. And I'm doing it by myself. I'm not really telling nobody in my family except for my mother and you.
Yeah.
You're keeping that secret. I'm gaining all this weight. And anybody that knows me, I'm super skinny. And after that, I've had a stomach ever since then. I have not been able to get rid of this damn stomach.
Girl.
It ain't right.
Listen.
It ain't right.
I can't lose weight for nothing. But I remember,
damn medicine pumping up me.
I did my egg extraction, and they tell you, you're going to be very swollen. So I was very swollen, right? And oh my gosh, and I remember somebody was like, ew, you're gaining so much weight, your stomach is disgusting. It was a family member, and I was like, oh my god, I just had something extracted from my body, and I bled, and I was like, this is they extracted eggs from both of my ovaries, I was swollen, and y'all got the nerve to say, but you know what?
It's just people don't. And it's always the people that's way bigger than you that talking really.
That's always in my life.
That's my family be getting on me now. You're picking up some weight. I'm like, bitch, you're 50 pounds heavier than me. What are you even talking about? You rivaling 200. But anyway, that's not true. But anyway, so I did the IUIs and I did the blood work.
Which hurt.
Yes.
It hurt. It was very painful.
The one at the same time also going to a therapist because I'm going through all these emotional
because you're having clothes fits on top of it.
Yes, I'm having that. I broke up with my ex. It's just so much going on in my the job situation. Cocktail. It's a lot, and it's just a lot. It's a ton of stuff that emotional wreck. It's not working. And then I remember on one of the visits, the doctor, my doctor wasn't in, so he had his counterpart do the IUI, and she's like, "Do you want to see it?" And so don't do that because
I made that mistake.
Don't do that because you be thinking you can see it on the monitor, the sperm traveling. You you can actually see it.
Yeah.
And she's showing me. She's like, "There they go. They're going." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm about to be pregnant." I'm about to be, and then you're not. But you see it happening, and you're thinking, I got 15 follicles. It's gonna get in one of them.
One of the 15 is a good number.
Yeah, right. And so, nothing.
Yeah, but you know what though? And this is the thing that I don't think that people talk about enough. So one of the classes that I took for this in vitro is that, the lining around your egg, sometimes the biggest problem is that it's too tough.
Right.
And they don't tell you this. So you're doing all these IUIs.
They don't tell you anything.
You're doing all these IUIs. You're doing all this medication, but for nothing, because here's the problem. No matter what, you would need to do in vitro because the lining around that egg is way too tough. So 15 follicles, but the lining around your egg could have been too tough.
I think, you spoke about with them not saying that. One of the things that bothers me to this day is that there's not enough information shared with patients. So I'm doing this for a year, maybe 2. I don't even remember. Like I said, my memory is it all blends together. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing these IUIs. I'm doing a ton of them. Going in. Meanwhile, not to mention, my medical at the time covered some of it, but not all of it. And I was not making that much money. I'm still not making no money, by the way. Anybody out there gotta, hook us? No, let me stop. but between my co-pays, the prescriptions, it was costing me a ton of money. Right. I ended up having to take a loan against my 401k to pay for it. But that's further down the line. But at the end of the day, just to have a child and be a single woman trying to do this, and the cost of it was ridiculous. Finally, after all of this time of not working, I decided to go see a different doctor. And I sat in there, and I remember sitting in her office, and she gave me hope. I remember sitting across from her, and she was pregnant. Of course she was pregnant. I'm sitting across from her, and she gave me hope. She made me feel you shouldn't have any problems. And shoot to 2018, and I look, and I'm doing research for this show, and I see that the odds of a black woman being able to conceive through IVF, IUI, any kind of infertility or fertility methods is less than half of the chance that a white woman has. So why didn't they say that to me? Why didn't they say, it's not going to happen, not because you're older and...
It could be a race issue, a complete DNA issue.
Like, I'm spending, at this time...
Thousands.
And that's my out of pocket.
Your pocket, yeah.
It was just, like I said, I took money out of my 401k to pay for these procedures. And then once I went to this other doctor and I started the IVF, like every month, like testing my follicles to see if they're big enough to extract.
And they were big enough, and you made. And the thing is, nobody came to say, okay, let's check. Listen, the lining around these follicles are too tough.
Right.
No, it's not working. Your heritage, your race has a huge factor in this as well. Incredible.
It was between that and then like the shots, like you're giving yourself shots in the stomach. Like it's not normal, and I'm gonna admit this. I don't even know if I told you this. The medication became so bad that I started getting it from online in Canada.
I think I wanted to bring that up. I'm gonna call it the black market.
Yeah, the black market.
In black market.
I got banned from a website because I actually got screwed. So I'm on one of these sites and I buy the medication and they were like, go to what is the money not MoneyGram, the other
Western Union.
Western Union, like Western Union has the money and we'll send the medication. I go to the supermarket at Western Union the money. I never get the medication. So I go back on the site and I'm like, where's my medication? You took my money, this, that, and the other. Them mofos they flipped it on me. They're like, no, you're the one that did this, that. I got kicked off the site. So now they got like $700 of mine. And it was bad.
The whole thing is bad.
It's just bad.
And that's the thing.
It caused you to do things that you would never do.
And you would never in your mind say, I'm gonna meet. And this is how desperate we become. Leftover medication that you yourself have from your in vitro or whatever process you're in, you're so in debt that you sell it.
Yes.
And people are buying it. And you're desperate. You're desperate on both ends. You're just desperate. The desperation, the amount of times your stomach hurts. You have bruises from taking too many shots and
it's crazy.
It's insane.
The memories of it. I remember driving into Manhattan and I think it was on Bowery, the Whole Foods on Bowery or like downtown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I parked and I go up there and I'm waiting Whole Foods because I'm supposed to be meeting somebody who is going to give me the medication I need, $350 worth, and I'm going to give them the cash. I don't know who I'm in Manhattan buying drugs, so that I can have, and thankfully it was sealed and clean.
Yeah, but see,
but you don't know.
But remember, I remember my doctor, the way they did. Once I got to the in vitro portion, where it was like they give you a calendar. You have a calendar and you have like 6 shots in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, 2 at night, and then you have all these pills that you have to take. And I remember I opened so they do this medication, but it's not like the prescription is like this in vitro place, and they send you your medication and all your shots and everything online. They send it to you so you don't have to pick them up at a place. So anyway, I remember opening the package, and with my death fear of pills, there was this one huge bottle, and the pills were probably the size of my house. And
they weren't that big.
But I remember calling you almost crying, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I got to this point, and I can't take it. And you were like, well, just calm down. You have to figure it out anyway. And I was like, I can't open these. It seems to be... And you're like, well, what does the bottle say? And I'm like, I don't know. I can't... And then you're like, take a deep breath. What does the bottle say? And I was like, it's a suppository. And you just laughed at me. You're like, goodbye. But anyway, you have all this medication and you have a lot left over. And I remember my office was like, whatever you have, bring it in. So if you feel like donating it, bring it in. And I thought to myself, like, why? Who would want this medication? Sure enough, do you know how many people in that waiting room would cry because they don't have some of the medication is like $3,000.
It's ridiculous.
And this is the thing. So this is another thing that I'm not trying to bring religion into this, but there's if you have a medical benefits provider Now remember, not the company that provides your insurance. Your company that buys that policy, should they have any religious beliefs that don't coincide with reproductive medicine, you most likely will not have a policy that covers any of this.
That's crazy.
Yes, and this is the thing. And sometimes they don't even know to do that. So definitely always check with your HR representative, because every year, when they're going to renew this policy, they could change these policies for you, but they don't know this. So always talk to your HR person. But anyway, if you have, let's say, I'm Catholic, so let's say you have a Christian company, and your Christian company is buying a medical benefits plan. If they don't believe in reproductive medicine, none of it, and I mean none of it, will be covered. So do you know what that is? You have to go in with all this blood work, medication, and it's a part-time job. You might be going like 3 or 4 times in a week just to check levels.
It's a lot. I mean, the process between, the mental process, the physical process, everything, the financial, even with me, with the whole, after I feel like I went through every single stage, and now I'm at this final stage. But prior to this stage, I went to another doctor. After my doctor, it just I wasn't gonna get what I needed, what I wanted to hear. I was gonna hear.
Right.
Finally, I go to the last doctor, and he's like, no, so your follicles are not viable enough. You need to do egg donation. I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? But he kept it real with me. He wasn't trying to take my money and run. He kept it real. He's like, we'll do some testing and see what's what, but it's not looking good. And so then I contemplated that. I went in, and at the end of the day, it was like, by that time I had a different job, and my insurance didn't cover it. And now I'm in a situation where, I'm 44, and I'll be honest with you. I came here today, even this last week, I'm like, it's over. Like, it's done. I have all these needles that I need to donate, and it's over. And
I'm
it's
staring
sad.
at a pile of needles, and that's, yeah.
It's very sad, because, I've wanted a child my whole life. Since I was little, I've always wanted a kid. And knowing that I'm never going to be able to pick up a kid and look in their face and be like, that's my daughter, or that's my son. I have niece and nephew, and I see family resemblance, but it's not the same. And coming to that realization, feel like in a way I'm coming to it right now. Try not to be too emotional, but
it's hard not to be emotional, because the whole process does a number on your hormones, right? So you're already emotional to begin with, and then it does a number on your hormones and your body, and you're putting carcinogens in your body. You don't walk away with this unscathed, no matter what your outcome is. And then even sometimes, like, I have the privilege of being around a lot of people that have different stages of fertility, and no matter what the outcome is, you almost, I had a successful round of IVF. But then there's moments where these family members that I have made me feel guilty. Like, I couldn't celebrate, and with some, I still can't celebrate. They will not celebrate.
That's them, though.
That's them. But still, you have to. That's something that you have to deal with eventually.
Yeah.
And but still, in the beginning, you're like, I don't want to leave my house because I feel guilty. I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to send them pictures. I don't even want to send them a Christmas card. I don't want to even be around them. And then you make, like, I use self-deprecating humor to mask whatever I'm feeling. Right. And sometimes I'll be like, I have too many kids, you could take one. And I get the look. And it's like, no, you're making me feel guilty. I have successor's remorse. You're making me feel bad about what happened to me.
It's tough, because I'm lucky in the sense that I'm close enough to you where I can witness both sides, and I can experience the flip side of it.
Yeah.
But when it came, I remember when you told me that you were pregnant, and I don't know if it was with the twins or the second time, but you didn't like the response that I gave, that you received. And I'm like, what do you, like, you want people to jump for joy, and it's like, I can jump for joy in my heart, and still, I can mourn what I don't have, while still in turn being happy for what you do have. Yeah. Everybody is not here to give you the expression or the reaction that you want. You just have to be comfortable with yourself and be okay with yourself. Like me, like I think about, with my experience, like I had to make a concerted effort to be happy for you. I mean, it sounds crazy. Like, why wouldn't you just be happy? Because when you're going through your own crap,
you're doing the same thing. You're doing exactly the same thing I'm doing, and I got.
And I'm doing it by myself.
Oh,
you know, so it's like, of course I'm happy. You're my sister.
But at the same time, let me be me. Let me feel what I feel.
It brought back a memory of not that they went through any fertility things like that, but I remember when my brother announced, like, he told me that he was expecting a child, and I remember we were both there at my dad's house, and he announced to my dad and his wife that they were pregnant, and my dad.
This might make me cry.
My dad looked at me. Because my brother showed him the sonogram or whatever. Yeah. My dad looked at me and he's like, got tears in his eyes. And the minute I see somebody crying, I'm start crying. Yeah. And he's like, you know? I was like, yeah, I know. And meanwhile, I'm feeling so good because my brother confided in me before he confided in some of my other members of my family. And my dad starts hugging me. He's like, don't worry, you're next. And I lost it. Because I'm like, why would you turn this into, like, not today.
It's not about me right now. Let me feel happy.
You know,
let me think about it. Let me be happy.
And then I started thinking about it, like, later, and I'm like, am I giving off that I'm not happy for people? I don't want to give that vibe off because
I think your dad in that moment just wanted to be a source of comfort somehow, and I think that he just.
No, he wasn't.
I don't know. I genuinely believe he wanted to be a source of comfort.
He might have wanted to be, but he wasn't.
He wasn't. Yes. No, you're right. Yeah.
He wasn't. Yeah. But, you know, it is what it is. And now, you know, I got a niece and a nephew. I have your children. And it's nice to have little kids who, I mean, obviously, I don't get to see my niece and nephew that much. And I hope, you know, in the future, they'll look to me and be like, oh, you know, I love my TT. And, you know, but at the same time, it's nice to know that people are willing to share the most important people in their lives with me. Yeah. Not out of pity.
Right.
But because they think that I'm valuable enough to be around. You know, it's weird. But I still have these moments where I just like, damn. Sometimes I'll sit and like, damn it, I'm not going to be a parent. I mean, I could adopt, but, you know, damn it, yo. And then you see stuff where people are not authentic. Like, we were talking about, like, a lot of the celebrities.
Oh, I hate when these mofos... Oh, can I vent for 2 seconds?
Sure.
I hate when you see these celebrities and they're, like, on the cover of People. And they're, like, 44, pregnant with twins. It's a miracle. I'm so happy. Bitch, you had IVF. Don't fucking start with me. Don't do this shit. Don't.
Anybody specific you want to bring up?
J-Lo, for one, with the whole, like, twins run in Mark's family. First of all, if you actually Googled some shit, you had boy-girl twins. So that actually happens on the female side because you have to drop 2 eggs at one time in order for that to happen. So let's be all the way real with it. Jennifer, right?
I would respect her more if she just didn't say nothing. Just don't say, like, you don't owe us an explanation.
No, by no means. But
don't time, make up stuff or use that as an excuse. Yeah. The same thing with what's her name, Mariah.
Mariah.
She said she didn't use it either.
Yeah, I just don't understand. Oh, she said she used. Hold on a second. She said she used acupuncture.
Which I did too, the acupuncture, but it didn't work for me.
She said she used progesterone and acupuncture, which progesterone does help, by the way. It helps create a nice environment for
it's possible. You know, you gotta take somebody at their word, but...
Listen, I was going through... I remember, for me, the process for me was like... there's a month where you're on birth control. You kind of like detox your body of all the medication that you were taking before, right? And I was doing acupuncture I think it was 2 or 3 times a week. That I can't remember. And then you and I went out on vacation. We went to Scotland and Ireland. And I remember every day I made a commitment to myself of don't get stressed out, to remind yourself not to be stressed out.
Right.
Look, whatever happens, happens. Understand that this is you. I made a commitment to myself that there was a certain process I wanted to take, and this is one of them. This one doesn't work. It's okay. Maybe we can try again. And then just take the day, take the moment. But I remember while I was going through this process, I'm still on my venting post with the whole like people. So I was talking to a person, a human.
No, really human?
Word. And I remember this other human was like, well, I'm super religious, so I don't believe in that, and I don't want a Franken baby.
Oh my God, I remember this.
Cut to a few years later, and this human is trying to do in vitro. Never take anything off the table. You never know how desperate you're going to get.
Don't judge, or ye shall be judged, as you are being judged on this podcast right now.
But the thing is, it's like, if you're a celebrity and you're going to talk about it, like, I appreciate Chrissy Teigen really coming out and just talking about it. It was a struggle. It didn't happen naturally. And she did IVF. She got 2 embryos. So the first daughter was an embryo. She elected to implant the female embryo. So that was her first daughter. And then the second embryo was male. And that's what she's pregnant with now. I appreciate it. She doesn't owe us anything. She doesn't owe us her fertility journey. But she was honest about it. And I appreciate it.
It's funny because we, from time to time we talk about the Kardashians. And even them, they put it on the network, on the show. Yeah. We went through, Kim had her struggles. She ended up with the last one doing the surrogate. Yeah. Khloe said she went through it. I don't know if she went through it with Tristan. Yeah, but they showed her with Lamar trying. Yeah. But then she came out and she was like,
I wasn't really trying.
Right.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I'm like, but who knows if she wasn't what, like, it just.
But you never know.
You can't put, it's like we watch this stuff. This is why I haven't watched it in like 3 years. Because it's just too much.
I need.
But then I think about like Tamar. She went and she did you went through the struggles and stuff like that. So I appreciate when people shed light, because there was a time in our society where it was like taboo.
Yeah.
And now I feel like everybody and their mother is like, what's going on with me? Let me figure it out. Let me freeze my eggs. Like, I was watching The Housewives of New York, and Tinsley froze her eggs. And, it was a conversation about it. Her mom was like, she's like, my mom made me. It's like...
Yeah, but you know what? You're going to thank her when you're trying to have...
Nobody can make you, though.
Nobody can make you.
Don't say that. I don't like that.
Nobody can make you do that, yeah. But at the same time, had I think about it from time to time. Had I not had access to my medical, and I was in my 20s when I started this. Had I not had access to education, money, and my medical benefits, I don't know where I would be in the process. So, and then I was married at the time, so that was my family planning. But
You're still married at the time. What are you talking about?
No, I mean when I started.
I started. When you say married at the time, it's like, we ain't together no more.
No, we're still together. But had I not been, I wouldn't have been on that journey. And where I am today, I don't even know if I would be, dropping any eggs.
I mean, I think we all have our thing that leads us to that point, but it's like, do we continue with it? Right. Like, I think about, having those hot flashes, just always being hot, and I run cold. But now I'm, like, always hot, and telling my gynecologist, like, something ain't right. And her telling me I'm premenopausal, go to the reproductive endocrinologist, and then him it was not a path I planned to take. Yeah. Even though my other OBGYN was like, why are you not pregnant yet? It still didn't completely sink in.
But had he been a little bit more wherewithal, we don't know.
Yeah, if he would have just came all the way out and been like, I think you need to be let me test for it to see like if everything's okay.
I grew up, I went to Catholic school my whole life, and having family members that struggle with infertility, and then your whole life you're hearing, you're not accepted in the church. The church doesn't want you to go. And they don't even want the kids. Kids as a result of in vitro, they're not welcome. I believe the church is changing now.
It's definitely got to be changing now.
It's to a degree it is changing.
They let,
Because it's conception outside of the womb. And now, but then now now it's like, well, the ideology, like, now it can help, but still conception outside of the womb. So there's a struggle, but then now there's an ideology. Well, if you went into it and you didn't know how simple it was, then it wasn't a sin.
Right.
Be all that as it may, you're growing up with a certain frame of thinking, and you don't know where your path is. You don't know what everyone's struggle is, because everybody's struggling with something.
So when you're, this is very true. Mm-hmm. We all got something.
Yeah, we all got something. Yeah.
So you go through this whole IVF thing, and I never forget the day when you're like, okay, so I'm going to set it up a little bit. So I remember standing in the kitchen with you and looking at you. Mm-hmm. And I try not to judge people too much about their weight.
Right.
But I'm like, this chicken ain't losing her weight.
No.
Like, what the hell is going on here? But I didn't say that to you. I'm just looking at you because I think you stretched up to get a cup. I'm like, what the hell? And I remember thinking, I thought to myself, there's no way she's pregnant because she's not going. She would have told me she's going through all this stuff again. And then it's like 2 months later, you flew some.
So I'll tell you guys the story.
I can't remember my own story. I'm trying to tell yours.
So I had my twins, and I was very thin, happily thin, really nicely thin. And then I kept like, man, I'm gaining weight. I'm struggling. This is really hard. I don't know.
You kept telling me that, so I was like, no, you're fine.
Meanwhile, you're liar. Oh, you liar.
Yeah, but you was emotional.
I was, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway.
I apologize. I should have been real.
Yeah, but I'm glad you weren't.
You don't want to be like, yeah, bitch, put the hot dog down, you know?
Is gross.
Dirty water not working right now.
So anyway, I went to a conference in Oregon, and my brother lived in Washington State at the time. So I left my twins with him, my sister-in-law, and her mother-in-law was there, my niece and my nephew. Anyway, I go to my conference, and then when I get back to Seattle, I was like, oh man, I must have caught something. I got a bug. I'm not feeling good. I'm just not feeling good. On my flight back, I throw up the entire flight. Y'all, I had to put my baby on the floor on an airplane so I can grab some tissues and clean my mouth. Like, I threw up so hard, I had to change my pants because I peed a lot, actually. Listen, full disclosure, it is what it is.
Now you want to be disclosure.
Now all the way reals with it, and I was throwing up. My husband picks me up, and I'm pushing the twins, and I'm walking. He goes, oh my God, you're beautiful. And I got so stinking mad. And I was like, I've been throwing up the whole flight. It was a night flight, mind you. And he's like, you're really, really pretty. And I was like, ugh, you're an idiot.
You never know if he really meant that or he was missing y'all. Because, an empty house can really...
Yeah. Empty house, empty home, empty heart. You can be missing somebody. So, and I was like, whatever, you're an idiot. He's like, you're so beautiful. It's like you're glowing. I was like, shut up, stupid. And then I was like, that week, I was just feeling awful, kept throwing up. And you know what? I call them disappointment sticks, those home pregnancy tests. I remember...
I still got some in my cabinet. I need to throw them joints away.
Oh, those disappointment sticks. And I was like, that'd be real funny, right? Oh my God. My last disappointment stick I had ever, because, you go through this whole process. Even before you start the process, you buy boxes of these. And then that last one, and then it was confirmed that Friday at my GYN appointment. And there the baby was. He was 2 months old in my belly.
Crazy.
Just there.
That's the one I was talking about.
Yeah.
When you called to tell me and you didn't like my response. And I love that boy with every piece of my being. But my response was not what you wanted to hear. And you're like, certain other person, I don't know if you want to bring that person up. Like, you made it seem like that person cared more. I'm like, really?
No, I
see you every day. Like, I was shocked.
I know.
Because part of me is like, I knew it. But I can't be like, yeah, I knew it, because it's like, who says that?
No, but it was just one of those things that I didn't expect. Number one, it was a natural, but it wasn't natural. The week I stopped breastfeeding, your body surges in hormones.
It is natural if your body is surging in hormones.
Well, no, it was yes. Well, I mean in terms of, it wouldn't have happened had I not stopped breastfeeding that week.
You don't know that.
Well,
you can make assumptions based on medical research, but you don't know.
I can make assumptions based on medical research, based on facts, y'all.
Yeah, but everybody's.
Everybody's. Yeah.
You know how many people that happens to it they don't get pregnant?
Yeah. No, you're right. So,
but I love the boy, and I was very happy for you when you told me. I was just shocked. I didn't, usually you call me and be like, did you see such and such? You call me, I'm pregnant. Like, what?
What?
Wait, what?
Yeah, no, but you're not the only person I made feel shitty with that, because it's like, I told other people and they were like,
At least I'm not one of the people like, what are you going to do? How are you going to afford? I was just like, oh my God. Like, I would never, whatever.
But cut to,
I'm still waiting for an apology.
I apologize profusely for making you feel
Are you
that
sincere
way.
about that?
I'm dead sincere. I'm staring her in the face now.
Alrighty. I believe you.
But cut to, talking about, you know what, I can't win for losing. I tell HR at my job at the time that I got pregnant. I told them on Thursday. Friday I wasn't feeling well, so I took off. That Monday when I walked in, my job was eliminated. Funny.
That's, I don't even know what to say.
Wah, wah. You go through this whole process and still somebody hating on you.
It's when you think about the roller coaster you went on between, losing your mom and, doing the whole in vitro and IU, that whole process, to the quote unquote, they call him an oops baby, but he's not really an oops baby. I don't like that term, but I can't think of another term. Yeah. To the whole, like, you can't work here no more.
Oh my God.
To now, and they're like...
Do you remember I actually went on job interviews with my big ass belly?
Like, I'm cute. I don't care.
I don't care. But it's like, why are you going on interviews? You're pregnant. And I'm like, well,
you gotta do what you gotta...
I'm not independently wealthy.
You've always been like, I am not defined by my belly. You showed up to your baby shower and 6-inch pumps talking about, I'm cute.
So stupid.
Like, really?
I could barely walk, man. My legs hurt. Oh my God.
Ridiculous. I was like, this chick, okay. So this is what we're doing now?
So extra. But if you call me that, I'm like, no, I'm not.
Well, you're extra. Wallflower. And now you're admitting it, and we're good. I got this on tape. So we're good. But yeah. It's International Infertility Awareness Week. Well, not today, but next week.
I want to know what the gentlemen feel for this.
Well, I don't have one. So.
Oh my God.
And I doubt any guy is gonna like comment on our show, like, I had, erectile dysfunction. Is that what they call it?
Well, funny enough, do you remember the people I babysat for? The husband, he had this bacteria, but he didn't know about it, where his body wasn't releasing the sperm, so he had to take medication. They did a test. He had to take medication, and it helped cut out the infection, so his sperm can produce, live on, and be free. And he was not very forthcoming. It wasn't like pass the juice, by the way.
Well, does he have to be?
No, by no means. But it did come up in conversation because at the time that I was, babysitting for their kids, that's when I started to be more open about what I was going through. And she brought it up like, oh yeah, I remember we spoke to a specialist, and I was like, oh. And he finished the sentence with the whole like, yeah, it was simple. It was real easy. I just took some pills for 2 months and then we were good. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I just kept moving. And then cut to like that summer, they're having a barbecue, and one of the coworkers right in front of everybody goes, oh yeah, me and my wife had trouble getting pregnant too. And I was sitting at a table with all these people, and I'm like, really?
This is why you tell your story, because you like to hear other people. You're like, Mrs. I want to hear.
No, but he yelled it across the room before I even started my to be vocal.
But how did it come up in conversation?
Literally, it was like, oh, you're such and such's wife. Yeah, we had trouble getting pregnant.
Oh, okay.
Too.
I thought you were saying.
You were there that day. Remember?
I told you I don't remember my own story.
My bad. And I remember you looked at me and I looked at you and I was like, this mofo, I'm gonna slash his tires.
Oh wait, yeah, now I remember.
Yes, and it was just like, oh, you're such and such's wife. We're in trouble getting pregnant too, and I was like, oh my.
Yeah,
God.
I remember now.
And then it was like the emotional buildup from when I was like 4. And people always try to shape more in my life. People be holding me back my whole life. And that was like everything of buildup. And I was just like, I remember being at Starbucks with the twins, and they're like, oh, do twins run in your family? I'm like, do Long Island IVF. And you're like, First of all, bitch, she did not ask you that. And I'm like, well, that's the answer she's getting.
I didn't like going with you to the mall or anywhere because you always start up a conversation talking about it. And I'm like, can we just get some hot chocolate and move on?
No, we can't.
Can we just have a nice day? Can I just hold your kid, pat them, watch them give me googly eyes and move on? You got to give the doctor's name. You got your phone? Let me send you a text message with the information. I'm like, really?
If you need to talk, I'm here.
Oh my gosh.
I can't.
It was too much.
It was just a buildup. That's how I needed to.
It was driving me crazy.
It was how I needed to deal with the shame
that
other people tried to put on me
right.
for what I was going
I get that now, but in that moment, you're just trying to walk in the mall, get some Bath and Body Works, and keep it moving.
Yeah, and I just would not allow that.
I'm like, oh my gosh. But, everything worked out.
It was about fellowshipping, y'all.
Yeah, okay, that's what we're calling it.
Yep.
We good. But yeah, it was an interesting time. We both have our own experiences, but I think for me personally, I didn't get the results that I wanted, but it helps me to appreciate what you went through more. Like, it's weird how, when you can have a relationship with somebody and they can't sympathize. Right, they don't know what you've really been through.
Right.
I haven't gone through the full extent of what you went through, but, having to give yourself your own shot.
You understand what that feels
I know what that feels like. It's a lot of, all the needles, the medical costs, it's a hustle, the racket.
It's the worst is when you're sitting in that humdrum room and then you see the one partner that walks in. It could be male or female, but you see the one partner that comes in and you're like, oh, I'm so alone.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. But, hopefully we didn't depress you. And you have people out there, if you're going through this process now, or, maybe it gives you maybe it makes you sit back for a second, pause, and think about your own life, and maybe you need to get yourself checked out. Sometimes it's not about necessarily a child in the end. It could just be about, your own medical health, your own medical well-being, because fertility is important in a lot of different ways. It can be about, whether it's hysterectomy, whatever it is.
There's a lot of
There's a lot of things.
Or going through oncology treatments that you have to take things out before you. Yeah. Right.
So it's I like the fact that they have this week. They have a week for everything, but this is a pretty good one.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting conversation. I think we can go on forever. I think this is the longest show we've ever had.
Well, I can talk about this for eons.
Yeah, I realize that. I recognize that. Can we move on now?
Wait, I got one last story.
All
So
right,
how I'm infinitely live to make other people uncomfortable. And every possible chance I can get. I think if I make you uncomfortable, I think it's hilarious. But you can't do that to me though, because I can't operate in that, because I'll cry in a corner. So anyway, cut to I'm at a park, and I strike up a conversation with some stranger. And I don't know how, but in vitro came up.
I don't know how.
I have no idea.
It seems to always come up with you.
No, but this is the funny thing. I didn't bring it up. I did not bring it up, and wait till I tell you the story. So I didn't bring it up, and she's cooing about how great my kids are, that she's never seen a healthy, well-balanced in vitro children. Those kids always have defects and problems. They're never normal. Mm-mm. And I was like, oh, really? No,
she did not.
Mm-hmm. And I go, well, I don't know about that. And I point to mine, and I'm like, well, I did in vitro. They seem fine to me. And she kind of looked at me up and down, and she was real uncomfortable. And I was really happy. And we sat there in silence. She didn't want to talk to me no more. Or maybe she was embarrassed. Who knows? But it really, really made my day.
You got to be careful. And it's not just with infertility, just in life. Be aware of who you're having a conversation with. Yeah. Everybody ain't on the same page. Just because somebody is nice, not everybody is as racist as you. Not everybody is as homophobic as you. You know what I mean? Just because this has nothing to do with infertility, but I remember we were somewhere and the guy was talking about Puerto Ricans, thinking you was Italian. Really?
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Yes.
I'm just saying. I mean, I never get mistaken for anything other than black. Although people do think I'm from different parts of Africa and the Caribbean. Look, I'm from the island of Long Island. Okay. Anyway.
All right.
But this was a good show.
Good show.
Can't wait to see your kids so I can kiss them and be like, you matter. You
matter.
People work to get you here.
You're enough.
You are wanted. And then, I'm gonna get rid of these needles. I think I'll take it to the fire department.
Yeah.
And I'll go home and I'll cry and realize it's the end of an era.
Oh.
It's the end of an era. But no, it's all good. Yeah, that's
all
about
right.
it.
Bye, y'all.
Well, no.
Oh, perdón.
Please check us out.
Yes.
On our Twitter page at Yep Yeah Yes. And bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.